Hello guys, welcome back once again to my YouTube video. It's been 1 year since we moved to the UK. God has been faithful. I wanted to make a video to share a little bit of how the journey has been, some of the good things, some of the challenges, and maybe you can learn something, a thing or two, or if you don't learn anything, you can just thank God with me. So I noted a few points in my device just to guide the conversation, because if I don't guide this conversation, I'll probably be speaking for the next 1 hour. I'm just going to give you a quick recap, not recap, basically a brief background. I am Amarachi Johnson. If you've been following me on this channel, you would know what this channel is about. And my journey in the UK videos is like just a cherry on top. It's not particularly what I talk about on this channel. I just think that it's important to share some of these stories just so you get to know me a little bit more. I'm Nigerian. I haven't lived in Nigeria for the last 4 years, and this is because I used to base in Cameroon. So I moved to Cameroon late 2021, and I was there until last year, July, before I and my family relocated to the UK. So some of the things that I'm going to be sharing, especially when I want to make comparisons, like I want to say, oh, when we were so place, I wouldn't be able to refer to Nigeria because I don't know what life in Nigeria is right now. I believe a lot of things have changed, some for the good, some for the worse, over the last 4 years that I left. So bear with me. I'm going to be referencing Cameroon a little bit because that is the most recent experience that I have when it comes to living in an African country. If you're not new to this channel, you must have seen the video I made on the global talent visa pathway of coming to the UK. And if you haven't seen it, you're just seeing this video for the first time, you're welcome to my channel. Please do well to subscribe and watch other videos. I believe they'll be very beneficial for you. If you want to learn more around the global talent visa, feel free to also check the video on this channel. I'll find a way to attach it to this video, but if I'm unable to, please, it's somewhere. You don't have to scroll too far to see it. So last year we decided as a family to move to the UK. There is a backstory to that, and I think I've shared it a little bit on some platform, but just to give a little bit of insight on the backstory. So when we had my son in 2022, the thought of leaving Cameroon came. There's always that thing that happens in your life and you start thinking that maybe where you are might not particularly be the best for your family. And that was where we were when my son came in 2022, late 2022. But then because of where we were at that time, it wasn't a decision we could just rush. It wasn't something that we wanted to just pack our bags and move simply because we could or simply because we thought about it. So we started seeking God's face on the next phase of our lives and if leaving Cameroon was going to be the best decision for our family. There are a couple of decisions that I don't take lightly. Relocation is one of them. Marriage is another. We started seeking the face of God over the whole of 2023, and during that period where my mind was mostly was Canada. Like if there was going to be a country we would go to, that would be Canada. And then after 2023 we decided that we're going to stop praying about the relocation since we haven't gotten any confirmation that we were meant to leave the country. And because we were praying about the journey, there were a few things that we're supposed to start doing in Cameroon to make us more comfortable in the country that we weren't doing, right? And it was impacting how much we really experienced the country well, something like learning the language. My husband could speak French a little bit, but for me, I can't speak French. I can only do basic conversations, but I can't speak French up to a professional level where I can properly interact. And I wasn't doing anything about it as much because we were praying this prayer of probably leaving the country. So when we came into 2024, I and my husband decided that we're not going to pray about that again, that we're going to focus on living in Cameroon and living out our best lives in Cameroon until whenever God decides that it's time for us to move. And that was what we did in January 2024. We actually enrolled for a language lesson class, paid big money to learn French. We're already going to the weekend class, so we're already doing our thing, already making inquiries on how to move on to, the next phase of a project we wanted to run in Cameroon and all of that. And then in February 2024, I finally got the confirmation. And then, after some conversations with my husband, we decided to take a look at the global talent visa. And that was basically how this whole journey began. By April 2024, I got endorsed as a global talent. In July, we relocated. It's been 1 year since that move, and there are a lot of things that, like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, there are a lot of experiences that I didn't expect. There were some that I expected. Some things have gone well, even better than I thought, and some things have literally way worse than than I thought they will. But in all, we give God thanks. So I'm just going to go through some of the good things that have happened, or some of the good things that I've seen, that the country has brought us over the last year. And I have to mention as well that before we made this trip, we literally didn't have any relative or any close friend in the city where we were moving. So we were literally moving with God and the host of angels, with the help of the Holy Spirit. That was the prayer I kept making before I move. I kept telling God that we don't have any other person here aside you, and this, like, it's just you that we have. So some people boast of having like siblings and all of that, which is really good for you guys, but we don't have that. But we are trusting that through God, He's going to make ways and make our journey very easy and seamless, as if we had relatives or friends around. And that has been exactly what God did. From the time we moved here, we got an Airbnb, of course, from Cameroon before we moved. The very first house that I viewed was the apartment, is actually the apartment we are currently living in. I heard a lot of stories about how getting a house in the UK is like an interview, you have to apply, you get rejected, but that was not our case. The day we came to view these apartments, we actually came and the landlord was here himself. And the next day, he just told us to come and see the wife, who is a partner in the business. And then we came, we saw the wife, and that was just it. Of course, there was also a challenge here, which was that we couldn't get the referee that was required to sign for the apartment, and that made us pay 6 months rent, which, nobody really anticipates to pay 6 months rent like that. But thankfully, through God's providence, we were able to pay our rent for 6 months. So when it comes to accommodation, that was a good thing that happened for us. We spent 3 weeks in our Airbnb. The bulk of the 3 weeks that we spent in the Airbnb was mostly waiting for the documentation of the apartment. So that was why it took so long, but thankfully it was settled as soon as possible, and that was one good thing that happened. The second good thing that happened over this past year is the people. As I mentioned, we don't have relatives or friends here in this city. All of these things are things I see as God basically going before going before you and making the path straight. So the people we've seen here from the very first week that we moved here, God has been so gracious. We've met amazing people that I can call like brothers and sisters now. We attend a very good church, a church filled with very kind people. The level of kindness that I have seen from the people in the church we attend is like it's something I can't explain. They've been so kind. So the gift of people is something everybody who is moving to a new country needs. And you don't have to bank on who you know. You don't have to bank on the auntie you have or the uncle you have. If you're moving to anywhere new, pray for the gift of people, not necessarily people you know. Because God, through people, even strangers, can make your sojourn in a new terrain very seamless, even sometimes more than the people you were having hope on, or the friend you thought would help you, or the siblings you thought would accommodate you. People fail, but God is one constant. He does not fail. And over this past year, He has been very good to us. Another good thing that have happened for us over the last year that I really want to share in this video, of course, is when it comes to job. Thankfully, I have a job from Cameroon before we moved here. I work remotely for a company in the US as a community operations manager. And that has been what I've been doing even all through my stay in Cameroon. I've always worked remotely. So it was really, really great to be able to have that job before we moved here, because it just made it very seamless, such that we didn't have to start breaking the bank, or going back to converting funds from local currencies to pounds. Since like moving here, it just took a few documentations for my employment contract to be switched to a UK one, and I basically just started earning in the UK currency, which is pounds. It was very helpful, and it's one of the blessings that I count several times over the last 1 year. But for the sake of this video, the last thing that I'm going to mention, this is the good that has happened over the last 1 year, is also like the strengthening that I see in my marriage. My husband and I have always had a very strong connection, even back from when we're in Cameroon. But being here, where when we're in Cameroon, it just felt like we're closer to Nigeria. And then we had like a very vibrant Nigerian community back then. Even our church was literally predominantly 100% Nigerians and all of that. So there was always this connection that like you're somehow closer to home. But when you come like way farther away from home, and you're just like, oh my God, my husband is really like my only ally, like in that sense, right? It just makes the connection between you both to be really, really strong, and both of you start getting to understand that you are for each other. This is not a kingdom divided against itself. I mean, we've always known that, but coming here just felt like more real. Like, this kingdom really cannot stand if we both don't fuse our resources together to build it. So I just love that connection that it has created. So let us talk about some of the challenges that we faced over the last 1 year. No good thing happens without having its own dose of challenges. But one thing that I love about God is the fact that He has promised never to allow a temptation, a situation that we can't bear to come upon us. So the first thing that I'm going to share is about childcare. So back in Cameroon, my child was already in school. He already started crèche, and the cost of crèche was very much affordable. But here, he's not going to school yet because he's yet to turn 3. And there's also the whole thing with the academic system. My son was born towards the end of September, which basically means that he would have to do nursery for 2 years instead of the typical 1 year due to when he was born. I choose to take that as a good thing, but then it can also be very challenging, especially when you have a career to do, and then you're also like merging that with having to take care of your child. The next challenge that we faced is in terms of jobs. I know that I already shared that I had a job back in Cameroon before we moved, but to be honest with you, the struggle that my husband had to face before he could even get an offer, which, even though it's not particularly that offer that we are looking for, but there was just a lot of struggle before we even got here. And it was one, I don't know whether to call it a culture shock, because I was not expecting it. It was one of the things that if someone had told me, I would have maybe been more prepared, but I didn't know, I didn't know that you could actually fly all the way from Africa or something to come here and then have difficulty landing a job. And I feel like a lot of people who are planning to travel don't know about this as well. A lot of people don't know, because there are a lot of menial works to do if you're thinking about that. Like if you're thinking about things like care work or security work, there are a lot of low-hanging jobs that you can easily get as an immigrant when you move. But when you're talking about the white collar jobs, like the jobs in offices, like assuming you were a lecturer, or you were a community manager, or you were a software engineer, or whatever, in Nigeria, when you come in here and you're trying to get into those roles that you normally would get from Nigeria, I didn't know they could be that hard. I mean, even with all of your experience, you could come here and struggle for weeks and months before even maybe settling for a job that is not even the dream job, but you just have to do it to get by until something better comes. So that has been a challenge, because we weren't prepared for it, to be honest. But yeah, thankfully, God has brought us an opportunity that is something that we are grateful for, while still praying for the next big thing that He's going to do in our lives. The next challenge that I want to share is in terms of finances. I know people travel abroad for greener pastures. That is a valid reason for traveling. I wouldn't say we actually traveled for greener pastures in that sense. And then moving here, it was just like a lot of financial demands that we weren't used to. I and my husband are not like heavy spenders. We are very, very meticulous when it comes to finances. Back in Cameroon, we don't use budgets. I mean, despite the fact that we are very prudent in our resource management, we didn't use budgets because we know that based on how our natural inclination is, it's very hard for us to go above budget, even though there is no budget. But here in UK, my God, from the very first month we moved here, I drafted a budget sheet immediately because I found out that if we don't do budget in this country, like the bills are coming at you left, right, center, back. So it was a lot of adjustment for us because like we weren't used to that. We were used to living on a little percentage of our monthly income, but here we have to lead really cut, the coats we were managing, we have cut it even into like littler bits. So I mentioned in the beginning of this video that I don't know if there's any lesson to be learned from all of these things I shared, but I want to also share a couple of things that maybe you can take away from everything that I've shared. One of them is that when you're moving to a new country, you need people. You need to pray for the gift of people. I already mentioned that before. And this does not mean that you have to start looking for uncles that your daddy helped or for aunties that your siblings helped, like things like that. If you do have people like that that are willing to help you, please go for it. But in a situation where you don't have and it's just you, God, and the host of angels, know that that is enough. In fact, it's more than enough. You don't need to have people in the UK for you to have a good first year. Yes, it's possible that they might make your stay way more easier, but I still believe that God is the one who owns the whole universe and he has sons and daughters scattered all over the world. All you need to do is to ask him to send you helpers, and he's going to send you helpers. And when he sends you helpers and you get established, you can be that auntie and that uncle and that helper to other people in the future who need that help that you didn't necessarily have someone to give you when you came in. The second thing that I also want to share is that moving to a new country is very challenging. It's not a walk in the park. It takes a lot of courage. It doesn't even, 1 year is too short to even adjust to moving countries. It's been 1 year and I won't tell you that, oh, we have really adjusted now. No. Yeah, it's something that has to keep going on. But the good thing is that when I look back at the last 1 year, definitely I am no longer that lady that dropped at that airport. In level of knowledge, in getting adjusted, like these days now I can go outside just wearing my t-shirt without wearing any sweater. I dare not do that when we first moved here, even though it was summer then. There has been a lot of changes, there has been a lot of adjusting, and there is still going to be more adjusting. And remember that if you're new here, things are not always going to be this bad. That is, if it is currently bad for you, there is a brighter future ahead. The light of the righteous shines brighter and brighter, and we can only move from glory to glory. So even if there is a current setback that you're facing, or there is a current, challenge that you're facing, just know that it's only a matter of time. Number three that I have to also share, so the fact that when you're on this journey, know that it's your own journey. You don't have to compare yourself or try to beat yourself up with someone who even arrived the same time as you, because we are all from different backgrounds. As I shared, we don't have anybody here. The other person might have had siblings who accommodated them for their first 6 months, or who provided them with a guarantor letter or anything that would help them pay their house rent gradually and not have to cough out that whooping sum of money to pay 6 months rent and all that. So the worst thing that you can do yourself when you just move countries is to start comparing yourself with either people that have always lived here or people that moved the same time as you. Your lane is very different. Your circumstances super different. The things you're aspiring towards super different. For someone else, they might be thinking of buying a house in 1 year. For you, your own is how to extend your visa. Or for someone else, their own is how to get a job that gives them COS. Stay on your lane. Focus on where you're going to. Don't bother moving into someone else's lane. And this is also me saying thank you to everyone. If you eventually come across this video, everyone who has helped us, whether with advice or with tips or with resources, anyhow that you've been of help to us over the last year, thank you so much. And I must return all thanks to our Heavenly Father, the God in heaven, who has been super faithful and good to me and my family over the past year. If you have any question or anything I didn't address in this video, or you think that the way that I talked about it, makes you want to know more, feel free to drop your question in the comment section and I'll be happy to answer your questions. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.